Welcome to the Beyond the Bucket Show, a podcast centered around optimizing all lives' buckets. We all have buckets we are balancing: coaching, entrepreneurial ventures, family, passion projects, and health. Let's all take this journey together and become bucket fillers. And here's your host, Chris McSwain.
Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. I got my guy here, Noah Stapes. We call him Coach Noah Stapes now.
Yep.
From St. Francis High School. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's been watching for a while, just waiting to get my turn to come on and hang out and have a good time.
Happy to have you on here. So why don't you give everybody a fun fact about yourself that they may not know about?
When I went to college originally, I went to Loma to play basketball, and I wanted to be a doctor. I was enrolled as pre-med, saw how much commitment it was going to take basketball-wise and school-wise at the same time, and kind of had to choose one, and one was paying for school. So,
wow. Okay. I definitely didn't know that.
Yeah.
But, so, just some context for our conversation here. I've known you since I think you were 11 or 12 years old, and you're 26 years old now. So that makes me old because I think I was the same age when I met you as you are right now.
Yes.
And that means I'm 41 years old. So, that's kind of how we met. I think you were playing NJB and I was coaching the AAU program, and I saw a talented player. You were close to 6 feet at that time as a seventh grader. And then I think I worked you out one time, and then
at Monte Vista High. And
then you came over and joined us and started playing AAU with us. So that gives some context for the listeners out there. But what was that experience like for you when you were young, growing up playing AAU and middle school basketball?
I didn't play AAU until I played with you. And it's kind of funny looking back now. There's kids that, they start AAU in third, fourth grade now. And I think our first year was the summer after my seventh grade year, I think. So it was weird. I just basically played middle school basketball for my dad and worked out with him all the time and played NJB. And then that was about it. No AAU. And I remember that first workout I went was working out with you at Monte Vista. Coach Legod was there. And I remember we were doing basketball stuff. We were doing jump rope in between reps. And my mom was there watching, and I was exhausted at the end, just dead. And we're driving home. She's like, "That was harder than you've ever really worked out before, huh?" And I was like, yeah, that was way different. And that from that point on, my mom was super bought into what you guys had going with Top Flight and stuff. And that's basically the beginning of my evolution from being a big kid playing basketball against, NJB, not the most talent around, other kids are probably playing AAU at that point. Right. And that was a transition to, preparing me for that next level of high level AAU into high school basketball and stuff.
For sure. And so do you play other sports too growing up, right?
Yeah. In high school, I played volleyball. I played baseball through 8th grade, played football through sixth grade. But yeah, I was always playing, I wrestled in middle school all the way through 8th grade. My parents were just super into playing as many sports as possible. And I think that's, it's kind of dying a little bit now. Kids are getting more specialized, but I always felt like if you're well-rounded, you also just get the experiences from if you're the stud on the football team and then you go to the basketball team and you're the seventh man,
right? Then
you get the experience of being the dude on one team and handling not being the dude on another team. Yeah. And some kids don't get that experience. They're the dude in the one sport they play and that's all they do. And then you get to college and you're not the dude as a freshman, and maybe it's a whole new experience that you could have already had and be prepared for. And I felt like I kind of got that from, volleyball. I wasn't the dude playing at St. Francis. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point because we think that you always have to be the guy. All the people that are behind me, they were all the guys on their team, but not necessarily, that doesn't need to happen because you have to play your role, like even for your family, for your wife, you have to play a certain role for what you guys have going on in your family dynamic. And if you're not playing your correct role, it's not going to really go well for the situation. But I think you can learn so much by not being the guy. There's been teams where you've been the best player. There's been teams where you've been a role player. And there's been teams where you might be the last player coming off of the bench. And I think there's a very good value to it. So that's a very good distinction for you.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the roles that you play, I mean, I'd never played on a basketball team throughout all of high school where I wasn't at least starting.
Right.
I mean, there were teams like where maybe I wasn't necessarily the best overall player on the team. But then I went to college and basically redshirted my first year because the coach was like, you're not good enough to play right away.
Yeah.
And that was like going, it wasn't even like you're going from starting to the bench. It was, you're not even going to play.
Right.
And that whole year was like pretty huge for my development. Like physically, I mean, I was lifting every single day just because that was the main thing was he's like, you're not strong enough to guard 22-year-old guys.
Right.
And I was like, he's like, yeah, you could probably score, but you can't guard those guys. And I was like, it's probably true. In practice, I was getting, posted up by dudes that were my size, but, 20 pounds heavier.
Sure.
And then to kind of progress to playing off the bench, I even got my junior year, I got a couple DNPs my junior year, just because we were loaded. We had a really good team.
We had the National Player of the Year, I believe.
Yeah, we had the Division II National Player of the Year on our team, starting at the 3 that was my position. Our backup was a 4-year all-conference player. He was all-conference off the bench that year.
Yeah,
who ended up being like my best friend in college, and he, so I'm behind 2 guys, and I was getting maybe like 10 minutes a game, but then foul trouble happens, you might have to play and stuff, and you got to be ready. Like in the national semis, in the Final Four, I played 25 minutes, and then I got the 0 minutes in the final. And if I didn't have that redshirt year earlier, I think it would have messed with my head a little bit more. But by that point, I was kind of just like, that my role was, I got to come in and do what they want me to do, whether that's defend the best guy on the other team, offense rebound, hit some threes. And, if I can only do that for 4 minutes, those 4 minutes better help out the guys who are tired playing 30. So.
Well, that's complete growth because, when I coached you when you were young, you were usually one of the upper echelon players, no matter what. You were a taller player, but you can handle, I would probably say your game probably matched what Luka Doncic is now, like for like that age group, in that middle school age group.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of allowed you to do that too. We didn't tell you don't bring the ball up because you can actually do it. You're a really good passer. And so you were always one of the best players in the game growing up in 7th grade, in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, all the way up. Even in high school, you're one of the best players in this area. And like, you weren't the easiest to coach. Like you were a very difficult player to coach. One, just because you were so competitive. It wasn't like a bad thing because it was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of deal where you wanted to win so bad, you would be out of your own character because like if you're just sitting here too, and you could probably say the same thing for me. So I'm only telling you the story that I can see from my lens, but like it was hard to coach you because you were so competitive. Mm-hmm. If you came out of the game, you're like, why am I coming out? It's like, well, another guy needs to get in. And then when I was able to watch you in college, I went to your game at Notre Dame and I saw you took like one shot. I think you took 2 free throws and you made both of them, but you were passing up good shots, not even taking them and giving them to somebody else, which was ironic. I looked at you and I was like, who is this player? I don't know who you are, because I had seen one player for so long. And then obviously you get to college and everybody's just as good as you. Everybody, you're 6'5", but everybody was just as tall or taller, or if they were smaller, they were super, super skilled. They could shoot it just as well as you, as deep as you, and all of those things. And then you kind of come to a realization, like, I got to find a role and star in it. And if you star in that role, you're going to be successful and you may get that role. like you said, in the national semis when you played 20 minutes, or don't play at all in the final game, which I did watch. It's just crazy, the ups and downs of what it comes down to. But like, when you look back at your career, is there anything that you would tell yourself at a young age, like when you were in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, that you look back on at age 26 and be like, no, I wish you would have known this? Not that you would have changed anything, but just something that would have given you like an upper hand than some of the other players.
Yeah, I think I've always said the main thing, and this probably just comes from the fact that it was the main reason I had to redshirt, but I felt like when I was in high school, I was like when I graduated, I think I was like 6'5", 190. I was pretty big. And then you get to college and it's like, that's a small wing. You know, you're kind of tall, but you're skinny. And taking the weight room super seriously was something that like I didn't understand until college. And, you know, right now coaching as well, like we talk to our kids about it all the time. And, you know, we just had practice and we got lifting after, and we got kids like, you know, asking we got lifting. I said yes. And they're like, oh, okay. And it's like, but if your end goal is to play college or beyond, unless you're Kevin Durant, you're going to have a learning curve physically that I wish that the thing too is like, it's not like that was never told to me.
Sure.
Is the hard part is if I went back and was able to tell myself that, like, maybe I would take it a little more seriously. But like the kids, what I always admired the most about some of the kids that would come in as freshmen and play in college was like, they were so physically ready to play. Like, at least in the conference I played in, the freshmen that played were not the super skilled ones. It was the freshmen that were like super physical and they'd rebound and defend. Unless you're a 5-star, you're probably not going to play as a freshman if you're just like a really skilled player. Like, I was really skilled and I came in and didn't play. And I think that would be my number one thing would have been the weight room. And then the other thing was just being able to, like you said, by the time I got to college, I kind of was able to turn it around and figure out like how much energy and how much emotion to play with at the same time. You know, obviously when you're in 7th grade, 8th grade, you're not like mentally, you know, all the way formed as far as how much effort and emotion you put into everything, every single little practice and AAU game that you play. You know, at that point I was playing every single game like it was, you know, the Super Bowl. And not that the intensity has to change, but the mindset behind how invested I was emotionally and how much I let that affect what I was playing, how I was playing on the court, the mindset I had. I think, you know, I never really had any extreme highs and lows in college playing because I realized the mental aspect of the game is so important, you know, and I always played with the mental side as far as like trying to out scheme the other team and in that way. But the mentally, like emotional intelligence side of the game, I don't think I really understood that until I was probably not even until like my 4th year in college.
How did you deal with the fact that you were no longer the dude on your team when you had been the dude your entire basketball career from middle school all the way through high school? Like, and your team was really, really good, but on a team of really good players, you were identified as one of the, you know, 1 or 2 best guys that they need to stop every single night. How did your ego, you know, take that? Because, you know, if you look back on it and it's like, damn, I've been this for so long. And then you get, it's like going into a cold tub. I just bought a cold tub.
Okay.
But I hate cold water. Like, I hate it.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in warm water. And it almost feels like that shock of getting in this cold tub. But then at some point you get used to being in that water. But it may take some people a while to get to that point. So how did you get okay with not being the star player, but still starring in your role?
I think redshirting definitely helped it, because I think if I had been getting like bench minutes, like 7th, 8th man minutes that freshman year. I think the whole time I would have been probably playing, thinking I'm better than the guy in front of me and trying to do that and trying to show that. I think just getting a full on, you're not ready to play and sitting out the entire year is just like, essentially, I mean, when someone's redshirting on a college team, even when I was playing later in the years, when someone's redshirting, most of the time it's because the coaches they're redshirting you because they think you can play later. You're not going to redshirt a guy that's not going to play most of the time. I mean, they'll let a guy redshirt if he wants to. And I think I kind of took that as like, they do believe and trust that I will be ready. It's just I have to get to that point. And for the first time ever, I was like, maybe I'm not at that point, when every other time I felt like I was ready to play. And I think sitting out the whole year was like a big difference.
So at any point did you feel like, F this, like I'm about to get somewhere where I can go play? Did any of that ever cross your mind? Because the transfer thing was probably starting when you were in college, and obviously it is where it is now. But a lot of people don't want to wait, and you end up waiting, and you had a great career, although you weren't considered the quote unquote star. But you got your team always did well, and you got a degree there. You got a master's degree as well because of basketball. So there was a lot of positives by sticking it out, in my opinion.
Yeah. I didn't really ever have a time where I thought, maybe I should go somewhere else. I just kind of felt like that we were a really high level Division II program. And to be honest, I think I just valued winning more than, being the guy on a crappy team. We were okay. My first year when I redshirted, we were like, I don't know, like 17-13 or something. But we went to our conference tournament final, lost in the final. And I knew based on who we had coming in for like JUCO transfers, we got a kid from another D2 who was good that came in. And then we had 2 seniors that were graduating in my position. So I was like, basically I'm going to be either starting or the 6th man next year if I just like work hard. And the following year we brought in a transfer from a D2 at my position. We had my buddy who was also my position, the 2-3. And to start the year off, the guy we brought in had knee surgery. He wasn't ready to play until like the 4th game. So I started like the first 2 games of my college career. And I had like 16 and 12 in back-to-back games. And I led us in scoring both games. We went 1-1. And the other kid was ready to come back. The other kid was better than me. He averaged 20 the year before. And the coach called me after the game and he's like, hey, Tanner's coming back. I want you to come off the bench and be the 6th man. And part of me was like, I just led us in scoring for 2 straight games. And, I feel like maybe I've earned a little bit more. But then at the same time, it was like, I've played 2 games and that dude's played like 60.
Right.
He's proved himself in years of work. And so I think, I knew what was going to come and that my chance was there. I just had to work for it. And I just was rather, and I'm glad I stayed, because if I had left and gone to, like a lower level D2 or something where I could have been playing 30 minutes, shooting 20 times a game, I wouldn't have, I went to the NCAA tournament 4 times. We went to the national championship, lost in the final, lots of good memories at Point Loma, lots of fun times, lots of good traveling,
Yeah. And a lot of people, they quit before, or they try to find something new if it's not working out for them at that point. But it's just that point, and you have to get past that, and you can have a lot of success regardless of whatever is going on as far as like external, because you could probably get a lot of external pressures too, from your family, from your friends, people that grew up, oh, I didn't see you in the box score, stuff like that. But that to me is just personal growth. And you talked about the workout that I put you through back then. Like, I wouldn't put somebody through that workout again, because it wasn't smart to really break you down all the way without actually having done that before. if I look back on that, it's like, yeah, I was just doing things to do things. All the things I think are still, relevant and prevalent today, but I wouldn't have you do them all in, 90 minutes. It's
Right.
like, all right, well, if we're going to strength and condition, okay, well, let's strength and condition. If we're going to, work on your off the bounce stuff, well, let's work on that. Let's work on your finishing. Let's work on your catch and shoot. Let's be more detailed in what we're trying to do. And I would say the same thing, for my personality too. If you reviewed, me coaching you back then, it was much more fiery and worry. I think you've come to my practice before and like, dang, you're not even like on them. And it's just a different way. You learn by going through it and trial and error, what has worked, what doesn't work. And then you find out really what's important. And a lot of the things that we would focus on really weren't important. It wasn't important that you averaged, or like in your first 2 games, you scored 14, averaged 14 points in those first 2 games. What was important was having the foresight to understand that, look, this dude also is really good. And if I just play my role, I'll get my opportunities when they come. And, it's having that selfless act for the betterment of the team. And your team was better because of it. Because if you could have been a jerk about not playing, F coach and this and that, it would have messed up your team dynamics, let alone just your own psyche and things like that. So what got you into that mindset? Because if you would have told me when you went to college that you weren't going to be playing the minutes that you thought you would be playing, I'd be like, nah, he's out. Or, but I would have been wrong. So what got you to that point where it's like, I'm okay with this and I'm going to get through it? Because that to me is the real winning. That's winning. Like you won because you didn't let the hard part beat you. You actually beat the hard part.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I think the main thing was that, I was at college with my now wife. And, I think we were dating at that time. And I took basketball very, very seriously in college. But practice ends, game's over. I go home, we watch some film or something. But I'm hanging out with her. We're having a good time hanging out with her roommates, hanging out with my friends. And I think overall, I just knew that basketball, we were going to be a good team. We were going to win a lot of games. I knew I'd have a chance. I wasn't like buried where I was never going to play. So I knew if I worked hard, I'd get a chance. And then I loved going to school there. It was an awesome campus right on the water in San Diego. I was with my girlfriend, now wife, at the time. And I just think I wasn't willing to sacrifice all of those good things just to more satisfy my own ego of like playing basketball and like my personal stats and stuff like that. I think honestly, it's probably just mostly because she was at school with me.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, because I think if I was there by myself, I would have had my friends on the basketball team still. We would have hung out all the time, but it would. It's hard to tell because I just don't know what it would have been like. And my parents were always big on like, when I told them I was redshirting, I wasn't going to play or whatever. My parents were like, okay, like they weren't upset. They weren't saying like, why aren't you playing? Like, you're better than this guy. You're better than this guy. Like, my mom was always just kind of like wants what's best for me and wants me to be happy and stuff. And, I told her that I was happy there and I liked being there at Point Loma. I liked being with the team. I liked the guys. I liked the coaches. They were cool. So she's, I didn't really ever even discuss transferring. So I guess I never really had any conversation with her about it, but I'm assuming she would have been like, do you want to leave all the stuff that makes you happy just so like you might like playing somewhere else?
Right.
Like you also could get somewhere else and you don't like the coach very much, or, you get somewhere else and, I ended up transferring I played 5 years at Loma, had a redshirt and COVID year in there. So then my 6th year, I went to Monterey Bay.
Sure.
And I had a great time at Monterey Bay. I love Coach Williams there. Ended up transferring with another kid from Point Loma. So we were friends. We got made some good friends there, but like, it was way different. Like so much different than Point Loma, and not in a good or bad way, just different. But like, I transferred as like a 24-year-old. Like if I transferred as like a 19-year-old, that might have not been very fun. Right. Coming to a brand new team with like, I came there and there was dudes with egos. Obviously every team has them. Dudes that have been there for 4 years or whatever. And like, they accepted me and, I got to play a lot and stuff as a transfer, but that's because I was a 6-year transfer from a good school. Like, they respected me because of that. But if I was like some dude that transferred from a barely over 500 Loma team, had redshirted, never played a college game, they probably would not have been as cool there.
Right.
So
it just goes to show you that the grass isn't always greener. It's greener where you water it. And, that says a lot that Steph had that sort of impact on you as well. And
yeah.
And then, what's even more crazy is you guys are one of the few couples that get together in high school and end up staying together past high school. And now obviously you guys are married. So that's like a really cool thing. But when you look back on, any of your basketball playing career, would there be one like moment where you're like, oh, it could have went this way, and you just look back and be like, oh, what would that be like? Well, maybe your CCS championship game, your junior year.
Yeah, my junior year, that game was tough.
Other than that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that game for sure. I mean, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, my junior year at St. Francis, we were the number 1 seed, and we lost in the Open CCS final to Sarah. We were up 1. They shot a corner 3. I went to close out from the side, and the guy shot it. He landed, and I kind of ran into his arm at the very end, like probably a 50-50 call. And with 2 seconds left, I just don't know if that's necessarily the call to make. They call it. He makes all 3 free throws. We lose. So, one of those, that's obviously the big one. Is like, man, if I just closed out and then, was able to not even make any contact with him, that would have been. I think also just my first year in college, when I went and I played, when I went to Loma, I actually signed with an original coach. Coach Carr.
That's right. Yeah.
He's the women's coach at Santa Clara now.
Yep.
I signed with him. Then that whole season happens. And when I sign, they have 2 senior wings and a freshman wing. And so it's like, okay, probably coming in to either start or play a lot of minutes. They'll probably get a transfer or something. I signed in the early signing period, November, I think. They're playing that whole year. One of the seniors breaks his foot, sits out the whole year. So he comes back. He wasn't supposed to come back. At the end of the year, Coach Carr ends up leaving, taking the Santa Clara women's job. Coach Looney comes in from Seattle Pacific, takes the new job. He brings a kid with him that's my grade, comes in as a freshman. They ended up being a 4-time all-conference player. He was my roommate in college one of the years. So that kid comes in. Guy that got hurt comes back. They got another transfer. So now I'm like 4th. Plus there was that other freshman, so maybe 5th. And I always kind of think about if that guy doesn't get hurt, if Coach Carr doesn't leave, I'm probably starting as a freshman, because that year I came in, the guy who was a freshman the previous year, maybe a sophomore, that guy ended up quitting. So I would have probably started my whole freshman year. I probably would have been a 4-year starter, but we're not going to the national championship with me playing 35 minutes. That's just the reality. If I'm starting on a Division II high-level college basketball team and playing 35 minutes, unless I'm surrounded by the 4 best the 4 best dudes in the conference for the the rest of the positions, our ceiling just isn't as high.
When did you know that though? Well, because you were always him in this area.
Yeah, it was probably my second year in college. So when I redshirted, I didn't really know. I was like, I just need time to develop and I'll be that guy. And in practice, I would kill people in practice because I was a redshirt. So if I was taking bad shots, he might yell at me, but what's he gonna do? Bench me?
Yeah.
So I wasn't going crazy or anything like that, but we would do scout stuff and I got to be the best dude on scout. And our coach was super into scout was 100%. We were going 100. And if the scout team scores on you running the other team's plays, you're doing it again. And he would come up to me and be like, you're going to be Michael Smith from Cal Baptist today, who's averaging 28. So I need you to kill these dudes today. And he wanted me to. And then and it was a game. It was if I scored, we'd get 2 points for the scout team. If they stopped us, they get 1. So we get 2-1 because we're, our team's not as good as the starters.
Right.
And
it's harder to score too.
Yeah, it's harder to score. And the loser's running. So then I'm going full speed and I was scoring a lot in those, and I was like kind of getting a little bit of a false sense of like how much he was going to let us do stuff, because we were in the swing offense. Like we were not. It was flex screen,
Post ups.
You got to be a 4 or 5 that posts up, or if you're the 1, you can come off a ball screen. But the 2-3, like what I play was you're swinging the ball, you're dumping it in the post. If they double, you can shoot a 3, or you're spotting up in the corner. That's about it. And I think my second year when I played.
By the way, we ran that when you were in 7th grade. That's like a version of it. Reverse the ball, back screen. It was like an inverted flex for those that don't know.
Like the up screens from the big guy from the block coming up.
Yep.
Was I playing the block?
Well, it was all interchangeable because
you got like 2.
I learned that from Looney, by the way, when he was up at Eastern.
When he was at Eastern,
because he taught a basketball class, and I took it, and I had all the notes. And
he
got it from Bo Ryan when he was with Bo Ryan in
Nebraska or no
Wisconsin,
Lacoste,
one of the
I
Wisconsin.
think.
Yep.
It's a crazy offense. I mean, it's one of those ones where it's like, I mean, the reason we were so good is we had like dominant. We started 2 6'8" dudes and like a 6'6", 240 center. Yep. And
that's why I wanted to ask you, if you were 6 feet, would you be able to do what you did?
If I was only 6 foot?
Yep.
I think if I like stopped growing in 8th grade and I was only like 6 foot, I would have turned into a point guard. I don't know. I mean, I turned it because I mean, in high school, I didn't have to really play defense. Like I was so tall and long and like pretty athletic to where.
So that means you played defense in middle school?
Definitely none in middle school. We sat in a 2-3 zone in middle school when I was on Rolling Hills, and I'd stand in the middle.
Yeah.
But I played in high school, it was more like I was going for like steals and blocks. Like I would make like it was the kind of thing where you watch, and if you really watch, you're like, he's not playing defense. And then, but like if you're just watching the game, you're like, oh, he has 3 steals and 2 blocks, and he's contesting all these shots. But like I wasn't really guarding anybody.
Right.
And I learned to guard in college. That's how I ended up getting on the court. Really, was my first year. Was I averaged like 3 points my redshirt freshman year playing, but I guarded the best player the best wing / guard on the other team. Me and then the other kid that transferred in, we would switch off guarding the best player. And I think if I was smaller, I would have probably gotten to that point faster.
You think you would have still played in college if you were 6 feet?
Yeah.
You think you would have had to work harder?
I definitely would have had to work harder. I think defensively would have been a huge thing. I think ball handling wise, like I'm pretty good at bringing the ball up, but then like I can't bring the ball up in college against like a 6'2" point guard. Like I can, but like not effectively. Like I can bring it up, kind of like half turn my back, get the ball up the court and do that.
Yep.
But when we play Concordia Irvine and they're face guarding everybody, and I have to bring the ball up against a dude who's like 6'3", super athletic, like that's not, if I was 6 foot, I have to be able to do that.
Sure. And then what would you tell like high school kids who are better upper echelon? Because like our area, first of all, the only 5, there's a lot of 5 stars on the girls side, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because
stuff.
There's just in the Bay Area alone, there's way more 5 stars and 4 stars and girls that go to really high level. I don't know why that is, but in this area, there's not a lot of 5 stars. I think the last 5-star was probably Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I think he's probably because the kid on Reardon's not. He's going to St. Mary's, but I don't.
He might be a 5. Or he's definitely a 4. Is that Sensley?
Sensley's on Sensley. We just played him last night.
I know. We won't get into that.
Yeah. But no, he's legit. But yeah, the last like legit 5-star where like the dude can go anywhere.
Like Logan was a 3-star.
Yeah, and I saw him score 38 in a 32-minute game and hold Jake Wojcik to 4 points.
Yep.
And I was like, that's the best high school game I've ever seen someone play. And
Jake was a 2-star.
Yeah, and Jake might be one of the best dub-cow players I've seen in the last decade.
Right.
He was legit.
He was tough. And so a lot of these players like are super, super high level in a great league, WCAL. And then you go to college, and Logan like didn't play a whole lot his freshman year. He played a little bit. Yeah, he played, but and then it took him some time to get acclimated to St. Mary's, and then finally his senior year, he was one of the main dudes.
Yeah,
obviously, but he had to play behind Jordan Ford, who was like a 3-star. But Jordan Ford was really like that. Even we watched his games when we were playing AAU because you were a few years younger. So.
No, he's my grade.
Oh, is he?
I played him we played Folsom my senior year.
Oh, okay.
They beat us by 2. We played up in Sac on we played like Martin Luther King. Like we just went up there and played them randomly. That game kind of screwed us actually in the NorCal seating.
He was 2016.
Mm-hmm. Him and the other guy was Trey Finch, and then they had a sophomore that went to Harvard eventually, like a big 6'8" kid with the fro.
He has a sister, Forbes.
Forbes, yeah.
Forbes, he was good. His sister is at USC right now. She's she's a senior at USC.
Oh wow.
Because she played against UCLA this past weekend.
Okay. Yeah, no, we played them. He was one of those guys where it's like, I remember watching actually him play against Mitty the year before as a junior. He had 0 in the first half, and I remember sitting there like, this is like the dude, and he had 33 in the second half. And they were like tied, and then they won by 20.
And he's 6 feet.
Yeah, he's short.
For him to do that against a Mitty defense, that's really difficult.
And Mitty was really good that year too. Like I think they lost in the state final that year for Division II. Like they had Ben Cohn, they had the kid that transferred in, Sebastian.
And so think about that too. Like there was a lot of kids that were supposedly better than you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think about this all the time. Like we talk about certain people that grew up in my era, and a lot of people, they had like aspirations. One was Antoine Guidry, who was the best athlete. He might have been the best athlete ever in the South Bay area. Your dad will tell you about him for sure. But he was a CCS player in football. He had 48 touchdowns. He was the CCS basketball player of the year. And then he was also the track athlete of the year too, running a 10-200. And he had a full scholarship to Nebraska for football and basketball. They were going to allow both because he was really that good. And I don't think he qualified. So he had to go to a junior college. He got hurt his first year in a junior college. And then he still went D1 years later at Temple playing football. But this is how good of an athlete he was. Like he should have been playing in the NFL, or he probably could have played in the NBA too, just because he was that good. But he would have for sure been playing on Sundays and could have been like a Hall of Fame. He was a Hall of Fame type of talent.
Where did you go to school?
He went to Lee.
Yep.
And I played with him AAU, and he just come out in like jeans. He'll do a windmill, and he was about 6'1", but he was just like physically mature. He's one of those guys that you say as a freshman he would have stepped in and played.
Yeah.
But when you think about, I don't even know where I was going with it before this, but I just remembered Antoine Guidry, and it's just all the players that may have been better than you, better athletes than you, and you actually ended up going further athletically as well as academically when you look at it, because they didn't like fight through the hard. Like there's a couple of different theories, but one is like, they were always uber talented and they didn't have to really work hard. Right. Or when they got challenged, they wanted to go to a different direction if it didn't work out for them at their first spot. So, do you think about that when you think about players that you grew up playing with and against and where they ended up compared to where you ended up?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that sometimes. Like you said, dudes that were always kind of known as like the best guys in the area, or guys that had a bunch of D1 offers, or did stuff like that. And I think it's a little mix of, like what you said, they were always super talented, necessarily didn't have to put in all of that work. Not that I wasn't talented and that I had to work super, super, super hard. Like I worked hard, but like, some guys, they kind of just have it. And, and I think it's that plus a little bit of the, you get somewhere, and if you have if your support system, your parents, your family, friends and stuff at home, that if you get to a college and you're not playing right away, some support systems are very, you're better than, these guys don't know how good you are, blah, blah, blah. You should go here. I already talked to the coach at this college, like that, they'll take you there or whatever. And, it's already kind of seeping into high school, as we're kind of seeing, kids basically leaving, a mid-level high school team that they just want a league title with, to go to another school where they're going to be like the 7th guy. And it's not because the exposure you get on some of those high level teams, I understand. But, there's guys who have transferred 3 times already where it's, they leave one school, they go to a school where it's supposed to get you more exposure. You don't play enough. They get mad. They go transfer back to another school, and now they're back in the same place they were before, where it's like, if you just stayed, you could have been like the dude for 3 years.
Right. And if people humble themselves like you did and don't take the easy way out, it's easy to say, all right, I'm about to, like, if you're being mistreated or something like that, that's one thing.
Right.
But if somebody's just not playing you, like, you got to look at the actual what's going on the court too. Like, we all have analytics now, and Huddle makes it very easy to look up everybody's stats. Well, you're shooting 25%. You were shooting 25%. Why do I not want you shooting a 3? Because you can only make 1 out of 4. Now, if you can make 1 out of 3, that's a big difference. That's a huge difference. It goes from 25 to 33. That's 8% difference. Well, if you can do that, or you can go to 35, like that's a big difference from kids that are not being able to shoot. I think Alan Stein had like a viral post about, who gets to shoot? The best shooters. Well, why is that such a thing? That's a fact. Well, who gets the best jobs? The best people that are suited for the job. You can't just go and start coding at Meta. You can't. Unless you actually have done it before. Why is this person getting the job? Because they can do the job. And if you don't, like, you had the self-awareness, understand, like, look, I can do the job, but this guy can too. And on basketball team, we know in high school basketball, we only have 150 minutes or 160 minutes, excuse me. If all five players played 32 minutes, that's 160. Yeah. Well, you played 25 plus, unless it was a 20-20 game where you're up 20 or down 20, and you guys were never down 20 when you played. You played 25 plus. Okay, well, Curtis played 25 plus.
Peter played 25.
Peter played 25 plus.
Just
Darius. And Logan came off the bench a lot of the time.
Gabe came off the bench. He didn't. I mean, we had 7 dudes. Like, they only give 5 all. You can only nominate 5 people for all league. We had 7 guys that were better than 75% league.
Exactly.
And those 2 guys. I mean, it ended up. Curtis actually came off the bench a lot our senior year.
That's right.
He took the because I came off the bench my junior year. Motil kind of just was. He brought Tyler Johnson off the bench, I believe. Yeah. Tyler's senior year.
He was the player of the year.
The player of the year coming off the bench. And my junior year, he said, "Hey, I want you to fill that role. Like, we need some scoring off the bench, run the second unit." And I was definitely not, like, when he told me that, I was like, I just started for you as a sophomore, like. And I ended up just taking that.
Yeah, I still don't know how Mike was able to do that, because I asked Tyler, but Tyler said it calmed him down because he was so, like, amped and he was so hype. Obviously Logan has that same thing. You guys are all very similar as far as, and I've had the pleasure to be around all you guys, but Logan is probably a little bit crazier than you.
Yeah, I didn't really get to see it much because he was a sophomore, and we had 6 like very high level seniors that
he was only a sophomore your senior year?
Yeah.
Oh, dang, I forgot about that.
He started for us actually basically the latter half of the year as a sophomore. But I didn't really, when you're a sophomore on the varsity and there's a good older group, you're not really going to be the super vocal guy. Right. I mean, he was energetic and he always crazy passion for winning and stuff, which I always appreciated. But I didn't really, I just thought he was like very, just like very passionate about basketball and very intense. But yeah, I mean, then when you watch, I'd come back and watch their games later, junior, senior year, and I'm like, oh, this dude's like, he's crazy about it. And I appreciate that from his perspective, because he went from a team as a sophomore where like he just had to defend, move the ball, and like make athletic plays on offense. And just basically he had a very distinct role. There were games where he saved us, like practically saved us at Sarah. It was like basically tied the whole game. And he had like 3 steals in a row for layups. We go up like 8, and then Curtis hits a couple threes and we're up 15. And I didn't play well that game at all. And, we're relying on a sophomore on a team that is 26-2 to fuel the energy for us on defense. And, I think some of that gets a little lost in the shuffle of how good our team was without Logan. I mean, that's another guy that, we relied on Darius to pick up full court a lot. But Logan and Darius would pick up full court together, and then me and Giuseppe would kind of hang out at half court with Pete in the back. And
that's tough.
I mean, I remember if the other team didn't have a legit point guard, there was no way they could beat us.
Right.
Like, we only lost 3 games all year. We lost 2.
But that's still Christian in the last one, right?
Yeah, and they had Christian Ellis, who went D1 point guard.
Remember, we seen him, and he was on Team Bibby. That was like the first time, because we played against them, or did we?
I think we might have just watched
Carlos,
them.
We were trying to play them.
They had Carlos Johnson.
But we couldn't even get to that bracket. So.
No, was that when we played Thon Maker before that? And then they kind of destroyed us?
Was that Thon? I don't know.
Remember when we played like Yase? It was like...
Oh, that was Thon Maker's team from Canada?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they destroyed...
Except I don't think he was playing that game. Like, we didn't play.
We probably should have had Logan and Jake up on your team those years.
That's crazy because they're 2 years younger, but it's so true.
But yeah, and probably Dylan and
Angelo.
Yeah, Angelo was. So imagine all those kids on the same team.
Because the next year they were really good. That 17s team with Logan and Jake were 16s. I always thought, I was like, couldn't I have technically played on that team as like a senior? Or since I was signed, I wasn't supposed to play.
You were signed, you couldn't play, but you could do anything in AAU.
That's what I was saying. Like, I watched, because my brother was playing, on the 16s team. And so I was in Vegas and I was at their games watching them, and like, I'm watching them play, and I'm like, they're like beating all these top teams, but they can't beat the top teams.
No.
And I'm like, if I was out there playing right now,
we still wouldn't have beat them.
No, not the top team, but they lost to a couple teams by like 2 or 4 or something. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not trying to say anything about the other wings on that team, but like they're like someone from Los Gatos, I think. I can't remember. Not Dylan, but someone else.
Well, yeah, you're right. But the last game of that season, we played the New York Wrens.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the 2 bigs were, but one went to Stanford and one went like to the Big East. But what's his name was on the he was the point guard, Pelicans guy.
Alvarado? Really?
Yeah.
I never noticed.
And it was unbelievable. He got anywhere he wanted. As good as Logan and those guys were, like, Alvarado was just on a different level.
Yeah.
He was just on a different level in their whole team. Like, I thought our team was big, but they weren't big like that. It was just a different, it was guys your size, right? But and a few inches taller, but we had a bunch of those guys, but it wasn't like those guys. It was like 6'9", 6'11", 6'8", long, athletic,
pretty big,
super big. But I
remember that game.
Those are the times.
We had some crazy, like Logan had some dunks, Dylan had a couple dunks. Like, it was a good game. I mean, but yeah, when you get to those top brackets in Vegas, Fab 48 and stuff, it's like, if you don't have a guy who's basically going to the NBA, it's going to be hard to win.
That's when I think it was watching, when we went to Indiana, I think that was one of the times where it was like, all right, well, I think we lost we thought we were really good.
We went 1-3, I think.
We lost a couple games by like 1 or 2 shots. We lost to Indiana Elite, one of their teams, because they have like so many. But when we watched those guys, I was like, there's nothing that we can do at this point. When you had Bibby's son, when you had Carlos, and then you had the one kid from Modesto, Christian Ellis. And I'm like, well, what do you even do with that? Even if we really wanted to play them 8th grade year, because that was when we thought we were really good. But
I think we were. I mean, that's like the point where I think that was our best chance to compete with those top teams, because in 8th grade, the kids who are 6'8" aren't. 95% of the 6'8" kids are not very good.
Right.
So like you can play like we won the top division in Reno that year.
Right.
Like, and we beat a team from
Portland.
And then we lost in the final of the Vegas top division
to New
York Bombers or something like that. They were blue.
Was it the Wrens? It might have been
They were tall.
Oh, the Gauchos?
Yeah, maybe. I think we saw them the year before, but we lost in the final of that one and didn't have Carter.
Right.
And Carter already was.
By the way, we had we probably broke some CCS rules back in the day because we had you guys playing in the Lee Summer League.
The Summer League. Well, as an AAU team, but we weren't in high school yet.
I know.
Oh, so that's
I don't know. Who knows? It doesn't matter now.
Doesn't matter now. We beat our 8th grade AAU team.
We beat a lot of those high school teams.
We beat Pioneer by 20.
We did.
We beat.
But that was that last game. That was when Carter's a baseball player for the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by the way, the whole group was a really good group.
Super fun.
And Carter broke his elbow or something.
Yeah.
And we had Vegas like that coming week, but we were using those games to get ready for it, playing against high school level competition.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Aaron Gordon sat on our bench.
When we were playing Leland, because they had Leland had like a 6'8" dude, the James Rohr or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, James was good.
I remember we playing that game and he's sitting on our bench, we're hooping, and I hit like 6 threes. And like the 6th one, I stepped back over him, banked it in. And I was just feeling like I was like, this is crazy going into that. Yeah. Aaron's pulling up to watch public school summer league, because he was boys with all the league guys.
Right. Yeah. He was friends with all those guys. But let's talk about coaching real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You stepped into coaching right after you stopped playing.
Mm-hmm.
So how has that transition been? What's been some of the obstacles that you've seen, and is there any deja vu? Is damn, somebody told me this, and I'm like, oh, I want them to understand this, and yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, it's crazy going back, especially because I'm coaching at St. Francis. So back in my alma mater, I coached last year, was my first year with Motil. So I'm back. I'm asking him questions of how did you deal with all of us jokers when we were playing? Because our team was crazy.
I would have been fired fooling with you guys. You guys were on some other stuff. I don't know how you guys would have did it. And I coached a lot of you guys when you guys were young, but and I knew all the other guys too because we had played against them when
everyone played NJB back in the day, everyone. So it was, Curtis was Redwood City, Darius, Peter, Gabe was West San Jose with you actually.
He was, yeah.
Darius, Giuseppe, Peter were Foothill. I was Willow Glen, but I asked him one time last year, I said, so coaching us, how did you manage? Because I know I was a handful to coach in general. I know, we had a lot of egos on the team. We had guys that we had 6 dudes that wanted to win.
And I will say this so I don't forget it, but
yeah.
You were hard to manage on the court, not off the court.
No, yeah, that was the thing is
you were 100% great young man off the court. There was never any issues. I pick you up, we go to the mall and hang out and stuff like that. This is before wife and kids, but yeah, I would just pick you up to come hang out because you always held yourself a little bit older than what you were.
Yeah, that's what I think helped a little bit was, we had Giuseppe was the resident peacekeeper on the team. He won St. Francis Man of the Year our senior year. They give it to the best, the whole student body votes on one guy. They gave it to Giuseppe. He held himself, super high standard. He kind of kept us together, to be honest. He was the guy that when stuff's going crazy, and because I was able to keep my head on straight during basketball games 90% of the time. And then that 10% when other stuff would go wrong.
That's because you guys won most of the games.
That's true.
You only lose your mind when it got close.
Right. But he was the guy that when I would start to lose my mind, he was able to kind of corral me back into figuring out, settling down. But I was I never appreciated how much Motil had to deal with. And to be honest, I think he's probably, out of all the coaches I've ever had in my life, he's the best manager of personalities and ultra talented ego teams. He's the best manager of those teams. He's able to, I told the story yesterday, actually. I was talking to the assistant from Reardon yesterday after our game. And he was asking, because he used to be an assistant SI back when I played. And
oh, yeah, I know.
Kareem.
Yep.
And I was talking to him and I said, do you know how many times we would go into halftime against Valley Christian, random teams like Reardon, who wasn't great when I played. They had Eddie Stansbury, who was really good, but we'd be going to halftime tied, up 2, down 4. And most of the time, just because of how calm he was, we'd walk in and our whole team would just sit down and just kind of chill. And he would walk in and he wouldn't say much. He would just be like, we need to do this and this. Let's get out there and do it. Let's finish the game. And we would walk back out. But I've also been a part of teams where you're beating a team by 10 that's not very good and your coach comes in and starts yelling at you. And I think he just knew that it was like, that wasn't really going to work with our team. Like, we just had too many dudes that like he knew that he could trust we're going to get it done. And we had dudes that if he yelled at him, it just wasn't going to work. We just had guys that didn't react to that kind of coaching, and he knew that. We also had times where he'd come in and we're losing to somebody or it's tied against a bad team for whatever reason. The guys on the team, we were not super calm. We were pissed off. We're yelling at each other. I'm telling guys on the team, I've shot 3 times in the first half. That's ridiculous. Give me the ball. Like, this is insane. Then we've got other guys like, literally I've gone in. I remember specifically Reardon, like one of our last games. We go in at halftime and I'm like, guys, I've shot the ball 3 times. Like, this is ridiculous. Give me the ball. And I'm also throwing in profanity in there. And Darius looks at me. He's like, why would I give you the ball? You don't guard anybody. And I was like, at the time, I'm like, yeah, but I put the ball in the hoop. And like, he's getting mad. And, Curtis is just sitting there. Like, he's not going to say anything. There's times people come in, they yell at him for taking bad shots. And Curtis is the ultimate, like, okay. He's not going to change what he does. Right. He's just going to go out there and get buckets. But we're all yelling at each other. Motil walks in. Kind of lets us finish what we're saying. And he's like, you guys ready to go out there and fix what you guys are talking about so we can win this game? And we're like, yeah. He's like, all right, let's do it. And then we just go out and play. Like, he was so good at managing. Like, he knew when we needed to be like.
Was there any times that he got on you guys?
That time was more in practice. During games, he kind of was like I never got taken out for taking bad shots. Like, I took a lot of shots.
We know.
Yeah. Like, he was never. I mean, there's a game preseason senior year, played Palma, and I was 0 for 10 from 3. And I was 0 for 9, and I shot like a step back because we were up 20, and I was like, I'm just going to shoot this. And like, he didn't say anything. But then like in practice, it was, it was different. In practice, he was super into like preparing us for the game, but we were not like we didn't watch film. Granted, this was also 10 years ago. I don't think film in high school was nearly as prevalent. I don't know. Did you guys watch film when you were at like Lee?
No.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
No.
Did you watch film like your first year at Valley?
Yeah.
So that was when you started watching film, though.
Yeah. Like with the team.
With the team.
For sure.
And that's like 10 years ago?
11.
But we don't. We watch it. I'll send them individual clips now because like the attention span.
Can't handle it, yeah.
They can't. And then, we have to, like, the eye in the sky obviously doesn't lie. So when you see what's on the film, sometimes it could be like, and take them the other way. So most of the time I show them the positive stuff now. So I sent everybody individual clips of them. Some of them are longer than others, depending on how you play. But like, our point guard has 11 straight minutes of positive clips. Mm-hmm. And so, if I'm on you and I'm trying to get the best out of you, because, we need that. I need to give them positive things too. And so they can view like, look, I'm all right at this, like, or this is what I'm good at. Certain people, you don't want them taking shots that they can't make. Mm-hmm. Now take the shots that you can make. If you're open in range and rhythm, shoot it. If you're not on balance and you're like somebody that can't really score around the basket, why even get to the basket?
Just
if you
pull
can't pull up or just move it.
Yeah.
So
you send them clips of like taking the good shots and you're like, do more of this.
Only their positive stuff. What is it that you've been like because after 12 games now, they should be able to see, okay, this is what I'm good at. And if this is what I'm good at, then I have to continue with that. And I can show you all the bad clips. Don't do these.
Yeah.
Why put yourself in that situation when you don't have to? But no, Lee, we didn't watch film.
Yeah.
Well, I was the JV coach, so we didn't really watch too much film.
But like now, I mean,
oh man, I watched so much film.
The freshman teams at St. Francis, like the coach after their game, we're preparing for the varsity game. He played like an hour ago. He's in there with the monitor. He's reviewing the whole game they just played for the freshman team. And it's like, that's just what it is now. Like, I can't imagine watching. We didn't watch film, and we were the best team in CCS, and we didn't watch film. I mean, I'm sure Motil did. And he would prepare us for the game on a whiteboard. He would pull it, he'd roll it out and be like, this is this guy's guy. When you get to league also, we're like, we know everyone who's in the league.
Know everybody. And I mean, and your team might not have needed it either.
I don't think it would have done, because to me it was like Logan and Darius's approach was like, I'm gonna go dog this dude guarding the ball. It's like, if we were like, this dude's really good, like try and force him left, like that was, if they got beat, they got beat. Like they weren't going to. And if they did, we had 6'5", 6'5", 6'10" standing behind them. Like, I mean,
and the good thing is we can see how much film the kids watch on their
you
own
can see
too.
the time.
So like our 3 best players watched 2 hours of film this week, and I didn't ask them to do that.
Yeah.
But you can see that they did it, and that to me is, if they're doing it on their own, then I don't think we need to go over all these clips, because like as coaches, we just do too much. I think sometimes, like myself included, I'm like, all right, well, we need 3 more blobs. We need a blob for this and that, and it's just like we just do too much a lot of the time. And sometimes like I'm taking mental notes about Motil just getting out the way. Like, I got for him, all right, I got the best team. I can really complicate this thing by doing all this stuff. Oh, we got to do this. We force this guy left. He can only go 2 dribbles, pull-ups. But like on our scouts now, it's like, all right, shooter, driver, rebounder, and sometimes the person has both or all 3. But I can't I look at our scouts from back when I first started, and it's like, oh, if she goes 3 dribbles to the right, she's gonna come back to the left. If she, I was like, I showed Natalie Diaz her scout. I was going through all this old stuff, and I pulled up a scout, and I just texted her, and I think she got engaged recently, so I said congratulations, and we played her in the CCS championship my first year when she was at SoCal, and I said, here's your scout, and she was like, yeah, pretty much about right, but like she was heavy right-handed, and she obviously dominated when she got to college doing the same exact thing. And that's what I tell people all the time now. You don't need like 5 different things. What was your thing?
I can shoot.
And it worked out really well for you.
Yeah.
And then when they started taking away the short one, you just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it opened up your playmaking ability.
Yep.
Like you got to get one really good thing. If you can get really good one thing, then you can have a counter to, okay, now I got to slide by 3. Or they're just really overplaying me. Well, Darius is about to eat, or Curtis is about to eat, because now they're so worried about me getting this shot up. I can go one more, and Darius is going to slash to the rim and punch it on you, or drop it off to Pete. Yeah. So I think that we as coaches, we do a lot, but we could probably keep it more simple.
Yeah, it's because I've been on both ends of the spectrum as far as scouting wise, like for teams and stuff. Like obviously in high school, we scouted a little bit, didn't really watch film at all, kind of went into it. And then I've also been in teams where we're watching an hour and a half film every day after practice.
It's too much.
We're watching our, if we played Tuesday, Thursday, if we played like Saturday night and then we're playing Tuesday, Thursday, then Sunday we're off. Monday we're watching probably a half hour of film of the game we just played. And then we're also watching film on who we're playing next on Tuesday. Tuesday, we have shoot around in the morning. Then we're watching the exact same film we already watched on who we're playing again, because that's what we do. We have everything's printed out in a big binder for us. We play Tuesday. Wednesday, film of Tuesday, also film for Thursday. Then on Thursday. And it's just like, and then if you're losing, like I've been in those situations where we're watching an hour plus of film almost every day,
right?
And we're 30-6, like, or I think we went 31-5 that year. We went to the NCAA tournament final, and we start off league 12-0, and we lose our first league game. We lose on the road to the team who took second. And we watched like an hour of film on that. And it was weird because it was weird in that at one point, at the point when you just get to it's like, this is what we do.
Right.
So you just kind of get into the habit of it. I liked it from a perspective of like, man, if you screw up when you're in the game, like you have no excuse. Like if you miss, like you're in the wrong ball screen coverage, like we've been over it like 40 times. So like if you mess up, and I was always a very cerebral, like remembered a lot of stuff. I always was really locked into the scout.
Right.
Calling out play calls. If I'm on the bench, I'm calling out this dude's back screening this dude. They're coming for they're going a flat ball screen at the top or something. So I liked it from that perspective because I felt like we were as prepared as we possibly could be. But on the other hand, it's like other guys don't process the information like that. Like our St. Francis team, if we put all the information, it could just be because it's high school kids too, but like if you overload the information on all these kids, like, or you have guys, what would happen? I swear, like every fourth game, you have this dude shooting 22% from three, make him drive, and then he hits 5 threes. And then like your coach, you're kind of looking at your coach like, and their coach is like, the classic line was like, he's a college player, like he's gonna make shots. You got to defend him. And it's like, you told me he doesn't shoot. And it's like, you can't use numbers and be like, to pin a guy down to like he can only go left, he can only do this. Like when you're in college, like it's different. Yeah. So I kind of on the fence about one way or the other. I think it's really important for teams that are like, if you rely on structure to win games, like we did running the swing, we relied on like execution and structure to win a lot of games, then it's important. But like NBA doesn't scout. Like I'm sure they watch their own film, but like, or if you're playing the Warriors, you might watch some of their like split action and stuff. But like, if you're playing,
well, it's different. They're professionals, and they have somebody like, look, here's every clip that Steph.
If he catches it right on that spot.
So it's much different for them. It's much more specialized.
Yeah.
Each position is more specialized, and they're pros, so they should be doing all the stuff that
right. And they know all this stuff. But then it's like, if you're going to go play the Suns, you're not watching 30 minutes of the Suns running sets.
No, you're just watching clips.
You're watching clips of like when KD catches it on this elbow, 70% of the time he likes pulling up to his left. The other 30, he goes right and tries to finish or something like that. But you're not watching like, oh, when they throw it to the wing and he cuts the other way, they're going to do this. It's like, no, they're going to throw it and he's going to go score. Like, so that's kind of the difference of, it depends where you're at.
Right.
High school teams probably don't need to watch as much film. College teams, a lot of it, especially in Division II, revolves around execution. So you can easily beat teams off straight up executing offense. And I think that can be true in high school, but especially at least the conference I played in was like, there were teams that weren't that good and they would just execute and play solid defense and they knew what you were going to do. And that kind of won them games.
Right.
But what did you think? Like, so you said that when we talked earlier about the intensity and how you coached, being in like your mid to late 20s and maybe a little early 30s. And then now where you're at now from like your late 30s to early 40s, how much of that intensity change was also due to switching from coaching boys to girls?
Well, that was definitely a transition for sure. Because, just certain things that you would say to a boy or a man, you wouldn't say to a girl. You just don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I had children and then when I had a daughter, this, second child was a daughter, you just think about, what you would want for them growing up. And at the end of the day, you just want them to have fun doing what they're doing, have a good experience, learn about basketball, of course, but that became more of the driving factor. Is if my kid comes home, hey, CJ, was it fun today? Yeah, Dad, it was fun. Or Maxine, did you have fun at practice and the game? Yeah, Dad, I had fun. And it's not going to be fun all the time because I know that it's just everyday life isn't fun every single day, but there's a lot of fun joys that you can find out of it. And so that was when I kind of like took the shift. And then I've taken more of the approach of a motel, like at a halftime. Like, first of all, I might have flipped out on you guys when you were younger and you said it, or like earlier on in my career, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't get you guys to play any different.
Yeah.
And if I'm telling the players to calm down, which he was probably doing for you guys, and I'm acting a fool, whether it be for our team or against the refs or whatever the case may be, like that doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't add up when I'm going crazy on every single call. And sometimes I'll find myself getting into those moments, and then I'll apologize to the refs and be like, hey, I'm just in the moment in the game. Cause I'll be like, travel. Like they'll be like, all right, coach. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just in the game.
Yeah,
like I'm just in the game. And it had nothing to do with you calling it or not.
That's the hardest one. That's the hardest one by far.
Yeah. So it's just like you've grown from a player to a young man to a husband, you just become more self-aware of everything that you are doing and not doing, and you have to have some like real. I'll watch the film and I'll watch myself. Like I watched it 5 years ago. I'm like, damn, what was I on? Like that was crazy. Remember, I used to stomp, and now I don't stomp anymore. We hardly run in practice. It's like if somebody's late, we're running. We have, standards in place for that, but I'd rather just play. And if we play hard, we don't need to run.
Right.
We're getting better at running, not getting better at basketball. We don't get water breaks. They can get water anytime they want. They don't have to ask. Like there's so many breaks in practice.
Right.
Like just go get it. It's right there on the scores table. Just do it. So I think it's just being much smarter, more efficient. I've been more efficient in my whole life. Like, we're in my studio and gym, but like before you got here, I'm watching nothing but film. So I'm doing my workout, film was on, or I swivel the TV, I jump on the bike and I'm watching film. I've never watched more film than I have now. Because I got just dialed into whatever it is that I was doing, especially when my mom passed too. I was like, I couldn't control a whole lot, but what can I control? I can get better as a coach. I can get way better as a coach. You don't think you can, but you definitely can. And that's just, and I'm trying to understand players more like a motil. And some people are like, oh, that's kind of soft. Well, you just said it. That was actually kind of smart. And to be like to have the self-awareness and the confidence that it was going to be okay. Because if you know your team and you know your players, like, all right, cool. Let's just change our behavior and we're going to be all right. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it kind of speaks for itself when, like you said, people might have thought that might not be the way that they would do stuff with that group or something like that. I think since he took over St. Francis originally in, I think, 2008, he's won 4 league titles.
Right.
Sarah has 0. Cathedral has 0. Valley has 0. Reardon shared 1 last year. They technically shared with Midi. Bellarmine has 2. SI has 0. And Midi's got like 9. Midi's just a machine. But he's like the second best, second winningest DubCal coach the last 20 years.
Right.
And there's a reason for that, So I think I didn't realize it. You don't realize it when you're playing. You kind of just like, yeah, this is the guy who coaches us. Like, whatever. And, I think he was way more in tune with what was needed from our group. And he knew it when we were freshmen because we came in as freshmen and there was 7 of us and we wanted to play. We went up to him, we're like, hey, can we come to varsity tryouts?
He said no.
He was like, no. And I was like, yeah, but we've been in open gym and like, yeah, the varsity starters are better than us, but that's about it. The varsity bench guys that year we didn't think were better than us. They probably were, but at the time we didn't think they were. And we're like, okay, so what's JV tryouts, whatever? He's like, no, you guys are going to play freshmen. And we were like, but why? He's like, because you can just play. You guys are going to play together. You're a group of 7. You're going to be with your own age. He goes, the difference between freshman and JV basketball is not very big. It's just a little bit of physicality from sophomores. He's like, you guys are pretty physical. And there was no need for us to play, sit on the bench of varsity and not play. So we played an entire year of freshmen together, got a ton of chemistry playing together, had a great time, won a ton of games. We got pulled up to varsity, some of us, at the end of that year. And then the next year on varsity, we started 4 sophomores. And I think at the time I was like, this is like, I don't understand why I'm not on varsity. I was like, there's definitely dudes on the end of the bench I'm better than.
Right.
But how fun would it have really been? Like, I mean, maybe I would have played a little bit, just for like shooting. But I mean, the following year as a sophomore, I was not physical enough to like carry a team or anything that year, anyways.
Right.
So he had like the foresight to see all of that. I mean, I think he just knew the league really, really well. He knew St. Francis really, really well. And he knew what it took to like compete and win the league. You know, I think he doesn't get appreciated enough in the league.
I agree. And you know, when you break down the accolades that he's had and things like that, and there's a lot of coaches like that. Honestly, you know, I had Pat in here and we talked about a bunch of the non-WCL coaches and how much work they put in, and just how good they are at what they do, and they don't get recognized because they may not be in our league.
Right.
And even if your team, first of all, it comes down to players first and foremost.
Yeah.
And if you've got players, and then you can be the coach that you really want to be. When you don't have players, that's when you really got to coach.
That's when it really shows.
And your coach can help you win games, even if you're not, more talented than that other group. And that's why, like, of course, I respect the other leagues too, but I really respect our league because not only when they have players or even when they don't have players, you got to prepare because you can definitely lose a game in our league if you don't. If you don't get your team ready, so.
There's no nights off. Like you said, every team. I mean, it's almost to a point. Like there's the analogy of where in the NFL draft they would talk about when you draft a kid from Alabama. You know, Saban's extracted every juice of talent and how good he's possibly going to be. It's fully extracted. He's not going to get much better in the NFL because the coaching is so high at that level. And that's almost how I feel a little bit about some of the players that come out of the Dub-Cal is like Kennedy is squeezing. He's making them as tough, good basketball players. Obviously kids are going to get better, but like Coach Rapp, the way he gets those kids to buy in and play at that extremely physical level. Bellarmine with Schneider, they were in the CCS Open Final my senior year playing against us, and we were more talented than every single player on their team other than probably Jake and maybe Angelo. But they were in the final. Like their center was 6'2" or 6'3", and like he was able to just get the most out of them. Right. And I think that that's something that really shows when you have good coaching in the league, and like, especially like you said, even coaches not in our league. I mean, last year we played Christopher in the D2 finals, and like Coach Sachs over there was running they were running this offense, and those kids were so dialed into like they had a really good center and they had a really good point guard. They were running the plays, and it's like the other dudes shoot threes and we're getting the ball to these two guys. And they were just, there's a reason they were in the CCS final. You know, they were just dialed into running that. Problem, they ran into, we had a lot more talented guys, and that's kind of just how the game went. But like, there was a reason. Like he did such a good job extracting all the talent out of that team.
Pat told me this when we sat down, and he was like, so we had 12 kids come from Union Middle School. Mm-hmm. And they had 12 kids, and only one of them went to the same middle school, St. Francis, when him and Mike met in the CCS. I don't know what round, but he told the story on the podcast, and I was like, that is the major difference. And it's just different. But as we're wrapping up, any final thoughts for you and your coaching? How long do you want to do this? You think you want to stick with this for the long haul?
I think so. I like it a lot. I just, me and my wife just bought a condo in actually right over here behind eBay over there.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. I love that area.
Yeah. So up in Campbell, Willow Glen borderline. So yeah, we're going to be here a while. And I enjoy it. I love being there. I love being with the kids. It's a fun time getting to, be back at the same school I played for is really fun as well. But, always just trying to get as much experience as I can, trying to get better as a coach, and just trying to learn as much as I can from guys like you, Coach Tension, and everybody in the league, to be honest.
Well, you're on the right track, and your opportunities will come for sure. And just the way you've developed as a person, just continue to develop as a coach. And if you do that, you'll be ready for your chance when you get it. So last question, if there should be somebody on this podcast, who should it be? And before you say who it should be, you got to make the connection.
Okay. To be honest, I think the coolest one would be if you got Motil on the podcast. Or did you already had Mo, huh?
He's already been on.
You had Mo a long
He hasn't been on in studio, but he's got a lot more time on his hands.
He does. He's just watching his daughter play now. So
yeah.
I think, have you had Kareem on?
No.
Kareem would be really good. Kareem Gilbo, who's the assistant at Reardon. He was an assistant at SI for 15 years. Played at SI, played at San Jose State.
I think Joey, when I had Joey on, he told me about Kareem to come on. And I know him because I seen him all the time when he came down to Valley when he was with SI. So
yeah, no, he's awesome. I actually hung out with him last night after our game.
Okay. Well, you got to connect me with him.
I will.
And you know what else you should connect with? This outro.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.